Welcome to another episode of the Lords of Consciousness podcast. I am your host, Clint Culberson, and I am really excited about today because, one, I have the most beautiful co-host ever sitting right next to me, Brooke, John Muhammad / almost Clint Culberson, his wife, Brooke John Muhammad, soon to be Brooke Culberson.
I like that.
We got 1 week left. How are you, sweetheart?
I'm doing really well.
Can you talk into the mic a little more?
Absolutely.
I mean, kiss it a little bit. So, Brooke, well, it's been a while since you've been, out, in the co-hosting chair.
I know, it has been a while.
Well,
Lots been going on.
yeah, lots been going on, exactly. Well, today I'm so excited, Brooke, because we have on a guest that has quite a fascinating wealth of experience, and she's here to speak about something that's like very prevalent in everyone's lives and in our society. Her name is Sara O'Heron, and she is going to speak to us today about the medical industry in general and her experience as a doctor. Sara is an OBGYN and a pediatrician, and she's also the great thing about her is she has this other experience of bringing back this archaic revival in a sense of holistic medicine and also shamanistic practices and energy work. And so I want to bring in Sara. Sara, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me come and be able to talk to everybody today.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. I mean, we've been friends on Facebook for, I don't know, about a year. And, I didn't realize to what extent, your experience had gone, and you reached out to me and let me know. And I was like, just blown away. And I said, we got to get her on the show. I want to have you speak and kind of shine a little light on, this unbelievable wealth of knowledge that you have. So you were originally from Wales, correct? For the people,
yes.
If maybe you could you kind of give us like a little bit of your, give us the 1 minute synopsis, the biography of who you are?
Yeah, I can try. So I grew up in Wales, and I moved to Canada for university, and my undergrad was in visual arts and dance. Then I went to, then I did a Bachelor of Education, became a teacher, worked with autistic children, and wanted to go into medicine. My father was a pediatrician, so it's not like this was news to me. And I always wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to help people. I knew from when I was little that I had some healing energies and ways of seeing things that would help. And then worked in Canada, worked there as teaching medicine, and I was recruited to the States. I was recruited first to Texas and then to Emory University in Atlanta, and then opened my own practice here just outside of Atlanta, which doesn't explain the weirder side of things.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is weird at all. I'm just saying that facetiously.
From Wales to Georgia.
Yeah, from Wales to, that's the sort of geographical plan of how things came here.
That's
And I'm
amazing.
very happy to be here in Georgia. I always wondered, when I first came, I thought, why am I here in Georgia? What is it in Georgia, And then after a while, I was introduced to some amazing, very powerful teachers who opened up more of my vistas for energy medicine and shamanic medicine. And I also found out that Stone Mountain is a very powerful place. It's actually, the base of it is crystal, so that's why there's a lot of people who have very powerful energies dealing with light work and awakening here.
What mountain is that?
Stone Mountain.
Stone Mountain. Why does that sound familiar? Is it well known?
It is well known. I call it the belly button of the world because it's the largest single stone mountain.
Oh, so it's one continuous, piece of
it's
stone.
One large
huh?
stone.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's set on top of crystal. And it was also it's an area that the Native American Indians held as sacred, and it was also the path, the Trail of Tears runs alongside it. There's been many, many things about it, but anyway. That's just an intro to Georgia, just to let people know that there are some things in the South or anywhere that you go that hold sacred wisdom and sacred energies.
Absolutely. We had on a guest a couple episodes ago. His name's Brad Olson. He had written a book about the sacred sites of North America, of Europe. He's got several different books, but going through even North America, so often we think just about Egypt or places like that, having the sacred sites of the world, Middle East, if you will, and even here in North America, where we're littered with sites that have always megalithic sites even. Of ancient civilizations that have a lot of significance to them, and there's a lot of energy to them also, if you're able to feel that. So you, I believe you mentioned that you had worked at a medical school. Were you teaching at a medical school?
Yeah, I was teaching in Canada before I came to the U.S., and I taught with UTMB Galveston in Texas, and I was full-time faculty originally with Emory University here in Atlanta.
So you were, you could come. Your dad was a pediatrician. And your dad was your dad pretty much, more in line with just the Western medicine model and just, going along with what he had been taught, or was he someone who had kind of? Go ahead.
He was actually a fairly controversial character in his day. He introduced the concept of putting babies on their mums' tummies, not taking them off to be away from their mums, and he always had a sense of how to feel what was wrong with a person. That's how I originally learned. He would take me around when I was very little and say, I would go do rounds with him on the wards, and he was the chief of pediatrics there, and he would say, have a look at this little, child here. What do you think? What do you feel here? So I learned really at his feet as well. But that's not where I got my senses, the natural senses, but I believe that he had some of that, so that was part of what was handed to me.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. I guess then for you, as you embarked on your career, did you ever realize that you'd be going down, you'd start, how do I say it? You would start exploring other paths, or did you believe in Western medicine when you first got into it all the way, or can you explain your?
I love that question because it's going to launch me into being a bridge here.
Perfect.
So, I went into Western medicine or allopathic medicine because I wanted to be able to heal people, not the other way around. It wasn't that, the shamanic part of things, I started doing transcendental meditation when I was about 14. And the first book that really resonated with me and had me think, I want to learn about shamanism. I want to learn, and the word shamanism, is a misname, really. It's more like animism or knowledge or truth or whatever. It's just I wanted to know more. But the first thing that appealed to me was Carlos Castaneda's books.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the first set of books that made absolute sense to me. And that was when I was about 17. And I decided that I wanted to go to South America and find myself someone like Don Juan. But it didn't happen. I didn't have the money. And I was a little afraid of going off into the desert on my own in those days. I often wonder what would have happened if I did. But
I thought this was a start to a romantic comedy here. Jeez.
I know.
Screenplay.
It would have been wonderful. It would have been great to give you that story. But I had a practical side to me that said, if I want to do this, I need to have a basis that's very grounded. And I need to know as much as I can about everything. And what was available was the Western medicine. And of course, learning beside my father, I didn't have that sense of, big bad medicine that people have. And I'm very thankful because my own sense of it is knowledge is knowledge. And I grew up knowing the evolution of allopathic medicine in this era. So my own concept is don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. You know what I mean?
Amen.
Because we have a lot of, there's a lot of concepts that people have. It's like there's a sense in spirituality, or people who feel that they are under an umbrella that's called spirituality, that has actual shunning of a lot of other knowledge, or has judgment of other forms of knowledge. Like it's only okay to be vegetarian, or it's only okay to do this, and this is the right way and this is the wrong way. It's that kind of way of thinking.
It turns into absolutism. Everything's an absolute. It's like, it's this is the only way, and it's I couldn't agree more with you.
Denying other truths and knowledge.
Yeah, and if we open up our sensibilities, we understand that everything, and when we say everything, and we know everything is love. Love is sort of what we are made of, what the atoms are made of, what the energy is made of. Then it's important to open our sensibilities to learn literally everything. Yeah. To learn as much as we can that we resonate with, and really feel inside about our own resonance. There's no right or wrong way, and really healing is about what we can hold internally in our hearts and resonate with, right?
Absolutely.
So, I grew up in the day, again, if we're going back to when I was little, I saw the children with diphtheria. I saw children with hydrocephalus before the shunts. So I have a sense of the love of allopathic medicine as well. I know the wonders of how it has evolved and can help people. This is also relearned technology, and people don't realize that. A lot of what we use is actually ancient that is being reborn. So it's not a question of, this is the right way and this is the wrong way. Only, people say only to use, quote-unquote, natural medicine. Well, if you look, what is natural medicine? If you look at the history of allopathic medicine, for instance, in heart disease, they used to use digoxin a lot, which is from a plant. Digoxin is completely plant-based. So most of the medicines we use are plants. Some of them are genetically or chemically changed so that there aren't some of the other side effects that can happen with the plants. Well, the healers in indigenous times did the same things. They knew how to combine. They knew how to either boil or have things come down to their substrate so that they could use it. It's all forms of energy. People forget that.
Right.
Everything is a form of energy. So it's being able to read the energies, read what is going on with your own body, or have someone help who can read your body, read your layers of the energies and see what does resonate with it. So it's not a question of allopathic versus shamanic versus energy medicine versus naturopathy versus homeopathy. I learn whatever I feel I'm drawn to learn and resonate with, because I need as much knowledge as I can to be and to help others.
Absolutely.
Makes perfect sense.
So along your journey, now, like you said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But what part of the bathwater needs to be thrown out in terms of what seems to be kind of been a generally accepted, the generally accepted practices of Western medicine? And, you've been involved with it for so long. And obviously, there are parts of it then that don't. I'm assuming you've found that don't serve us in the best way, and that's why it is important to bring in other aspects. But maybe you could kind of touch on that.
So as you're asking me that, I see two things. Number one is a bias of mine. So take it from where it's come, because of course I'm going to always come through with my own lens, right?
Right.
So my bias is that American medicine is business, and that has to be thrown out. The business of medicine is wrong,
Yeah.
But I don't say it's wrong in terms of, the whole economy of the world is a feudal economy, and it's time that this shifts. And what's reflected in people disliking physicians or disliking the pharmacy world is not really the dislike of the people if they really thought about it or felt about it. It's the dislike of it being a business, which is not about love of helping, right?
Right.
So that's the one side, which to me is the largest side that kind of I feel what's drawing people to anger or discomfort. Because whenever there's that sense of anger or outrage or discomfort, it's because something needs to shift. And that's part of what needs to shift is the entire economy and business-based economy about a basic need, a basic love that we have for our fellow human being, which is helping out a person who's in distress in any way, in disease, or in discomfort, or in pain. It's, reaching out to our fellow human beings because we are all connected and understanding the impact that we all make on each other. So the start of that is to change the entire system, especially here in the U.S., because I've worked in other systems that are not like this.
Like where?
When I worked in Canada, and of course when I was in Britain, So,
AKA socialist medicine, is that what you're talking about?
Well, I think even saying socialist medicine is still part of the bigger regime.
Right. Right.
It's still part of a feudal system. So I think that it has to come to a different measure. It has to come from a different basis. We have to be able to help people without the interference of wondering whether they can afford to have the right medicine for them, to have the right treatments, to have therapy of whatever sort that they need. Now, the second side of it is treating people at the level that they can receive. And this is where I think people get a little bit confused, because if people are open, if the person I'm in front of is open to working deeply with the layers of the energy body that are in distress or discomfort, I can work with their energy body. If that is not anywhere that they are resonating with yet because of their, stage of awakening or development, it dishonors them to push them or try to do that. It's not going to help,
Right.
In fact, it can push them in the opposite way, because when you're not ready to open yourself to a certain realm, it can feel very invasive.
Right.
So that's where certain of the allopathic medicines come in. I don't like to give, this is an example, I don't like to give SSRIs, which is the medicines for depression, anxiety, because I understand that when somebody is feeling depressed, it's usually because they're not allowing themselves to feel sadness, hurt, pain, whatever, and it's in sitting there and holding space for them to be able to go into that and be heard and be felt and allow themselves to have some love and kindness to themselves that allows it to surface. And in surfacing and coming to the light and being shared, that is the healing.
Right.
Some other people are not able to do that yet. I mean, you can hold a space of love for them, but they're not ready for that. And so there are times when I have to prescribe it, not often, I've got to tell you. I rarely, because I don't like to work with brain chemistry, but sometimes I have to, because that's all that they are open to at that point. And I do energy work with them without them knowing, in a sense, because I can hold the energetic space around them and have things help. Sometimes they need that until they can get to a point of having some degree of peace to move forward.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, it's like having a toolbox and having many, many, many layers of tools, if you like, and knowing which one is right for that person, because that's what honors that soul. So to me, the allopathic medicines that a lot of people get angry about and say, well, you shouldn't be giving this. Like, another example, I'm sorry I'm rambling here, but there's so much that I can talk about.
That's why you're on the podcast, to ramble.
Right. Yes.
And I'm trying to pick things that I hear people talk about a lot. So,
that's perfect.
for instance, in the area of oncology, which is cancer medicine. And, there's a lot of misconceptions about cancer out there because cancer is just a word. All names for diseases are words, and that's all they are. Cancer is really an overgrowth of cells in an area because they're happy to overgrow and the body's not picking it up and saying, no, that's not where to overgrow. It's not good for this body. It's not good for this being. Well, it's great to say, if we can really work deeply in the higher and deeper realms, if you like, with the energy body, with the soul body, we know that we can actually change the structure of atoms. We can change the cellular structure. We can make an impact. And they can be cured. That's an absolute, that's truth. However, not everybody has the time or the time in linear time, because that's where they kind of fit in, or the sensibility to be able to receive that at this time. So their layer of the best thing for them would be chemotherapy because it can be life-saving for them. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a choice if they don't want to have that form, but you can't throw it all away. It's like there are different, even the chemotherapy, remember that it's being given through the years through experimentation, but also through knowledge that is handed down. There's reasons why it came through. So it's knowing what tool to use at what time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It does make sense, and it's one of those things that everyone is at different stages of the journey. You know what I mean? I mean, even if becoming a vegetarian might be your inevitable path, it's a step. It's a process to get to wherever we're going. And maybe it's not for everyone. Who's to say? But I think that, like you had mentioned before, the idea of absolutism, that every truth is meant for everyone at this very moment, when really even the truths that I'm accepting now in my life required, quite a long, it took 36 years. It took 36 years to get here. So,
right.
At least for myself and for other people, it's taken 100 years, and so the truths that
we're just on the cusp now. I mean, we're just starting to make the shifts. There really has never been absolutes. There aren't, as you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, every moment is shifting. The truth, or what we feel internally as a truth now, is going to change in the next 5 minutes,
Yeah, well said. Let me ask you, I wanted to ask you, this is something that I've really been wondering about, is what percentage of the disease that you were mentioning before, that we see out there in the world today are preventable? I mean, if you can put on the hat of living in a utopian society, Sara, like what if we lived in a utopian society where children were born into very healthy homes, emotionally healthy, they're not filled with trauma and stress and the whole deal. Imagine a utopian society where we didn't live in a money system. What would we still see disease? Would we still see ailments and sicknesses? And then how much of that could we really prevent?
Well, we're talking about massive evolution here.
We can dream, right?
Yeah, well, the dream is what we do. The dream is we are evolving. And since time is something that we have created, if we take away time, we take away space, and we open ourselves to all-knowing, all knowledge, of course, none of it is there. No disease is there, because if we become evolved to the point that we are love, there is no disease. That's it.
Yeah.
But that's, so, but you did bring up that's taking it to the nth degree. We're in this path as,
or let's say like a realistic, let's say just in our own lifetime, in the next 20 years, if everything goes, if you became the czar of health, or and as the world gets better, what a percentage of what we're seeing out there in terms of ailments and sicknesses and disease could be prevented?
I think a tremendous amount. tremendous amount because what we understand, we have the technology, we have the understanding to actually. They're very close to knowing why we age and die.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an enormous amount of technology in that that has already been found. Will it be allowed to be known? That's the question.
Right.
So if it was allowed to be known, that was one thing. It's a whole other layer.
Do you believe that we know now? Do you believe it's known?
I do.
Yeah.
We have incredible technology and knowledge around. I mean, it's the same thing as in the world of energy. We have no reason to be using fossil fuels at all.
Right.
So, there's a tremendous amount of that. But unfortunately, there's a purpose for things to be as they are as well. And fortunately, at the same time, because there is a process that's going on here. If we look at the larger energetic side of things, we are in the shift. We're shifting. There's a lot of the shadow side that has to be surfaced.
Sure.
And that's what's going on. So we're in the process of working with the shadow side and holding the light and holding the concept and consciousness of love, etc. But the other side of there's something that you said that I just want to mention. You said, if everybody grew up in a totally loving, balanced household. But the other side of it is also the side of ancient evolution, because it is part of our responsibility, especially the younger people who are coming in, to break the ancestral pattern, which also breaks the genetic and cellular pattern once we shift into a higher vibration. Because we've held a lot of those ancient wounds. So children come into beautiful, wonderful families with a lot of pain, and sometimes they're holding these ancestral energies through their cellular body, their genetic body.
Absolutely. Brooke and I have been talking a lot about that, just the idea of ending. This might be the time period of human evolution where we're ending that ancestral karma. I've heard a lot of spiritual leaders out there, in a sense, talking about this idea, who are people who are very connected to the ethereal realms, who are talking about that, and it does make a lot of sense. It does feel like a lot of people, even in my own world, are trying to heal their own wounds from their own life, but not only that.
It goes deep for them.
Yeah, it goes deep. It goes deep. I mean, we have a good friend who considers himself a shaman as well, who says that we hold on to up to 7 generations of that.
Yes, so it's 7 back, 7 forward.
See? Tell us more.
This is so fascinating. 7 back and 7 forward.
Oh, geez.
And I want to say something to give a little bit of hope and heart out there to some of the people who are afraid to go into physicians' offices. I belong to a Facebook group, that is over 50,000 female mom physicians, which I absolutely love. And I really wish in a way that I could share the posts with everybody so that they understood the heart of these people. I mean, these are my sisters, truly. I have so much respect for them. And if people could see these women at work and what they do in their hearts and how much they feel, remembering that all of us are going through this shift, all of us, So physicians aren't immune.
Sara, what percentage of take that Facebook group that you're involved with? What percentage of those women doctors are open to or even aware of the bigger picture of a an evolution or a shift that's taking place? I mean, that are tapped into that, I guess, spiritual side of things.
I would say at least 60% of them, at least, maybe more.
Wow.
That's just, that's a numbers and that's a guesstimate, but I've actually have linked up with a few other physicians. It's mostly like psychiatrists who get into looking for or neurologists. I don't know why. I'm the only OBGYN pediatrics that I know who openly is, involved in energy healing and shamanic work, etc. But we have connected through this group. Like, we're always very excited. There's someone else who's actually creating forums as well, and I'm going to be doing a podcast with someone else that we're doing together about this, who's trying to get to some of the leaders in medicine, and she's quite a mover and a shaker.
That's awesome.
So it's exciting, but they really are, because remember, with people who, if you went into it for the right reasons, I think this is going to sound totally biased, so please, any males out there, please don't take this as a shun against males. It's just that we are coming into more of the divine feminine. We're balancing, because we've come, and that's not really to do with men and women. It's more to do with the male and female balance of energies. Yeah. But the women in medicine have been bringing this forward. So
beautiful.
I think that's why this group is very conscious. And the thing that they're most conscious when you hear the stories is the absolute love that they have for their patients, and the absolute caring, and how hard they try. But at the same time, we're working with a system that is very constraining, and you have to maneuver around the system.
Yeah, a very left-minded system.
It is. It's a very monetary system, unfortunately. Yeah. And people feel that it's the doctors that are, there's a lot of the blame game going on. I'm talking medicine, but there's a blame game going on in everywhere.
Yeah.
Do we lose a lot of these women that have such great big hearts and intentions along the way with all this pressure and this constriction from the medical establishment? Or do you feel like there's some that just lose their heart along the way?
Why the group is a wonderful support group, because when they're feeling, they'll put letters out saying, I'm sitting here crying in a stairwell, this kind of thing, and this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I've gone through. And so they get, 20,000 responses on it, people saying, yeah, we understand, and you have a huge heart, and we know your heart, and, this kind of thing.
There's some support. There's some support out there.
Yes,
like that.
Yes, and
That's
it's
so
important
beautiful.
to support, because, we are the healers. We're the people who put ourselves out to want to help others, and the only reason I'm saying that is not because I want to say all doctors are great. It's not all anything that's great, and It's not all anything that's terrible either. But I want people to know that your doctors that you see are human beings as well.
Absolutely.
So just know that we all are on our own paths, and we all are on the same path. We're all interconnected in the same path.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned, we're all trying to navigate through, a system gone wrong. We're coming out of an era that was so hyper masculine. Total male domination. The masculine on steroids, and an unhealthy masculine, and so. This is the systems that we have. It's not just in medical, but it's every single system there is it comes from this particular, it stems from this source. So we're all trying to, it's not something that you can can't right the ship in a night. It's going to take a generation to right this, and like you said, to navigate, through it, operate within it, while at the same time trying to dismantle it and change it. And that's easier said than done, and it's, without the support groups that you're talking about, this won't be possible.
I feel like this shift is happening very fast, actually. I'm not sure it's going to take a whole generation.
Really?
Because things have speeded up. The sense of consciousness since 2012 has been incredibly deep, and so this shift is happening, and it's happening quickly.
Do you think, though, this hasn't started in 2012, though? There's been pioneers within your field, for example, who've been doing it for a long time, who are real, probably female doctors who were really standing out even 30 years ago, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
But on a more mass scale, where it's now, we're having a podcast about it. People are talking about it on a much on a much wider scale. I think the vast majority of people feel like the parts of Western medicine that don't work. I mean, I think that if you went on, knocked the doors of every house in your neighborhood, I think the vast majority of people will go, yeah, it's kind of a broken system right now. I mean, there's some things that we got to do better, that don't make sense. Like you're saying, the idea of bringing love back into it. I mean, a lot of people feel like when they go to the doctors that they want to get you in and get you out as quick as possible. It's like, did you even listen to me? Did you even hear anything I was saying? And
I think that part of that is unfortunately system driven, because they think that, they still think it's in the old days where everybody makes a ton of money off every patient, and it really is not like that anymore. It's really very hard for physicians to get paid. We're in this monetary system, and the overheads have gone up, all the pricing of everything has gone up, and it's a business, so they have a business to run, unfortunately. And the insurance companies dictate that if you were going to be able to pay the extraordinary amount of staff that you need just to be able to see a patient, which has gotten insane because of all the paperwork and the insurance hoops you have to jump through, because their whole game is not to pay. So the other side of that is, in order for them to, make their overhead, they have to see volume. Well, when you see volume, it's very difficult to become a human being again.
Right.
It becomes a factory. So maintaining that balance is hard for them. I found my own ways around it. Plus, I have a different way. I don't mind not making a whole lot of money.
There you go.
So, but that's, I have a different sense of things, and I understand when you've been brought up to say, the measure of success is having this, and some people are still in that,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways of looking at that, but getting back to what you said about it becoming more in the open now, even for me to talk about it right now, this is something I wouldn't have probably done openly. Some years back, it was always, I've always worked with the gifts that I was given, like the sort of my higher counsel that works through me, and the other realms, which I'm always thankful for their knowledge and infusions of wisdom. But I would never have actually spoken openly about it many years ago.
And why? What would be the fear?
My fear
what would the
at that
backlash
time,
be?
My fear at that time was that people would think I was nuts.
Wow.
Which still happens sometimes now, but it doesn't bother me, at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, but, it was part of that era where things were still not, we were like a secret society,
Yeah, isn't that funny?
We were working behind the scenes to change from within, if you like.
Absolutely.
So we had to do it very subtly. And the beautiful part now is that it doesn't have to be anything like that anymore. I had decided that quite a while ago, just because I felt like, it didn't matter, It wasn't about, that was some of my own things to work through as well.
Sure.
And, because I grew up, even though I had a father who was very conscious in his own way, I certainly think that they were afraid of my power, if you like, of my gifts. It was something that was frightening, especially to my mom. So we all have those stories that we have to work through.
Sure.
These are all the challenges in the road to have us grow and be able to have our voice be more grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a beautiful thing to watch. The generations that are coming forward now, it's a different world.
Yeah, to say the least. We can feel it. This is the playground we play in all day long. Listen to the name of our podcast is called The Lords of Consciousness. So, the Facebook group that we've all been a part of too is called that. And so, of course, this is what what we were into, but at the same time, you can see the changes happening on a much wider scale. I mean, even I think the average mother out there is much more conscious of the idea of organic foods and eating the right foods for her family.
Breastfeeding, attachment, conscious parenting in general.
Yeah.
Conscious parenting, yes. Allowing the child to be, which is one of my favorite things to teach, is allowing. And there was a period of time that concept started to come in, where allowing your child to grow became allowing total chaos.
Right.
It's sort of like allowing. That's not an allowing. That's not love. That's not a loving space. That's a space where the child feels they have no
structure,
nobody wrapping their arms around them, saying, that's not such a great idea,
Well,
yes, permissive parenting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dr. Wayne Dyer called his parenting strategy non-interference. So that always stuck with me. I've kept it in my own life, which is hard sometimes, because we want to jump in and we want to, we know better, or we control the situation. But man, it's before we came on this podcast, we were all talking, and Sara, you are the mother of 5 children, and you just had your first grandchild, and congratulations.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Well, I guess I want to ask you about that. What was it like raising 5 children and also being a medical doctor?
Yeah, please. I'm so curious to hear about this.
Well, very early on, I had, like everybody, goes through that. I'm working so many hours. I'm doing so much. Is this okay for my child? Kind of thing. Am I neglecting my child? Am I a good mommy? Because women are brought up to wonder. Yeah, there's a lot of shame and guilt and all that. And I had somebody very wise say to me, you are the only mother of that child. You are their mom. So you are you. Be you as the mom. And that was a beautiful thing to hear.
Mm.
This is early on, your first couple children?
Yeah, this was my first child. Because it was very hard going back to work with my first one.
Sure.
But with the other ones, I accepted that they chose to come in as much as I accepted their souls coming in, and what I had to teach them was me, and what they had to teach me was them. So, and it's, allowing myself to sit with my heart. Of course, you have to listen to when they need you, when they're okay without you, but, and make sure you have the time. It's not just quantity. It's not just quality time. It's also quantity. But it's a balance, and I'm thankful that I have pretty high energy. So it hasn't been an issue for me. There were times, and I've been a single parent 90% of that time. So there were times when I had to go do deliveries, and I'd have to get them up in the night, and they'd come into the hospital and sit in the nursing station, and it's part of their growing, and it's part of them knowing this is part of the world.
Right.
Yeah, quite an experience they got.
Yeah, they had an experience of life. This was the experiences that they had in their life, and they learned more than just the kind of a small box,
right,
Walton-type situation, which I don't think exists anyway.
Yeah, you expanded their world for sure with those experiences. Yeah. That's lovely. Thank you for saying that. That was something that I've really thought a lot about recently. I have one child, and Clint has one child. We're coming together and just kind of navigating my own roles now as a mother of 2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're navigating their blending together too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I see a lot of the times your parents try and make their siblings like each other.
Right, but they're learning things through each other too. Their relationship.
Yes,
it's all divinely unfolding. Yeah,
they have their own relationship. We don't really need to interfere with a whole lot of that. We have to stop them from killing each other if they want to, but it's not a great idea.
Just don't kill each other.
Yeah, please.
Is the one rule.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I see a lot of parents that become sort of the judge and jury for their kids. They're always coming and saying, he did this, or he did this. It's like keep an ear and your senses out of what they're actually doing. If they're being sadistic with each other, it needs to stop.
Right.
But other than that, they have to work out their own relationship too. There are lessons in that. They came together too for a reason.
Yes. There's something going on there too.
Absolutely.
I feel that. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
I want to talk a little bit before we forget totally. Not that you've forgotten before I forget. I wanted to talk about what they label as special needs children these days.
Oh, please do.
So one of my favorite areas where I have a special heart love for is children with autism.
Mm.
And I think autism is a wonderful subject in a way, because it is really enlightening us. A lot of these children are living in the higher realms. That's what autism is about to me. And they can teach us how to be in their realms if we allow them to and sit with them without having to force them into what I call the day-to-day, which is in my tradition called the kaipacha. We have a day-to-day that we can navigate in, and that this is kind of the realm that we learn. It's not comfortable to them. It doesn't make sense to them. Mm. So learning their realm and being able to be with them has them more easily enter into the kaipacha or the day-to-day and be able to tolerate a little more at a time how we navigate, rather than seeing them as something that's gone wrong.
Yeah.
So
they're a part of our evolution too.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, these are souls that just are functioning in different energy realms. I think it's true of all of us in a way. We all have our own kind of tone in the symphony, and they're tuned to some of the upper levels. And I hate to say upper because there's no higher and lower, but we have no other way of talking about it in our words.
Sure.
But layers. And these layers interweave anyway, but they're kind of in another energy layer.
Gotcha.
So would you say that they're are they split between two different, paradigms, or how do you believe that works?
Well, I don't know if this will offend people if I say it this way, but it's coming to me, so I may as well. The way that I explain it sometimes to people is it's like being on acid. You're still in the same world.
Now you're talking my language.
Okay.
This is a psychedelic podcast.
Yeah. So, when you take any plant medicine or chemical medicine, what it does is it shifts you into another layer of reality. And it doesn't mean it's not detached. All layers intertwine, and they are really part of the same thing. But it expands the vista into a different layer. They live in that other layer. It's like being, on plant medicine or acid or whatever people have experience with that they can relate to. And if you understand that, the tree is still a tree, but you sometimes see it as a total living organism. You see it breathing. You see its leaves may be made up of the fraxels. Well, this is where they live. Yeah. That's what they see. If you're wondering why they're staring at light for an hour, that's what they're doing.
Man,
what a perspective.
We shouldn't feel so bad for them.
I know. I'm kind of jealous, actually.
Yeah.
So what
feel bad for it. So it's not something that we have to stop. It's just in order to have them be able to interact with this layer,
right.
They have to. We need to hold a space that they feel safe. I mean, in my office when the kids are around, they call me the baby whisperer.
Oh, it doesn't shock me.
It doesn't shock me either.
Because it's about allowing yourself, I try and feel the energy layer that they're in and sit peacefully in that space, and that means it's safe for them.
Yeah.
and then they're able to interact with you. Because if you're afraid of them, because the parents are sometimes anxious, they look at them and they're like, oh my gosh, look at what he's doing. What will happen to him when he grows up? All those thoughts are going through their mind. Mm-hmm. They feel it.
Yeah,
they feel that energy. So if you hold that space, they're able to come a little bit more into peace in the day-to-day, the kaipacha.
So what was your work with autistic children? Did you have some kind of role that you played then?
Well, after I did teaching after my undergrad, I worked with a program called Contact. It was done in Canada, and it was teaching kids. And we did a program with children under the age of 3 who were autistic, and we worked in completely different way than they had before, because the only thing there was behavior modification before that time, which is basically like dog training. I found it really pretty
fabulous, yeah.
intense, to watch. I was like, I couldn't do that, training them to respond with a certain stimulus. And this was a different program which was created by a guy in California who had an autistic child. His name was Kaufman, and his book is called Sunrise, and it's really beautiful, and it really made sense to me. And we worked with these children who had been diagnosed at that time in Toronto through their institute in psychiatry. And so they were brought to us, but the caveat is they had to be under the age of 3, because the younger you start really working with love and intensely with them, like being in their world rather than making them come into ours, the quicker it allows them to feel at peace here and learn the day-to-day. So we worked with them, and at the end of the program, the psychiatrist said that they must have made a mistake with the diagnosis. Wow. So it was a very, very successful, because these kids all started to be verbal and interact. And so that was my introduction to working with autism. And then it's just been kind of one of my loves is not just autism, but children who are labeled or who have what's called special needs. I like to be able to help the families and the community and to see things in a different way. Same thing with ADD, ADHD, which is a diagnosis that is loved to be thrown out there,
Right. Thank you for this work. This is really incredible that you've done all these things and brought this kind of knowledge to families. That's something that's really dear to my heart as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're soothing me just listening to you. I feel so calm. So, Sara, where do you want to go from here? I mean, what is now you're kind of starting to come out a little more and speak publicly even, and where do you want to head from this point?
I honestly don't know. I just am allowing it to grow organically, because I'm not a commercial person, I'm not one that has ever dreamed of fame. It's not something I would ever aspire to, but I have been certainly getting the message very clearly that I need to be able to be available to a much larger audience, because I have a lot of patients. And it's my community, so I always see myself as kind of being in the trenches, being in the day-to-day, but I think it's time to have this, to be able to speak to a larger audience and be available to help a broader range of people. So I'm happy to have this expand in whatever organic way it's meant to. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just the start of saying to anybody listening out there, if they need help, I see myself talking to large audiences, particularly of parents, and being able to talk to their questions and help set a tone and answer some of the concerns that people have been having in a different way.
Yeah.
You one of the things that you had mentioned in the very beginning, and this is truly, I believe, I feel my own purpose, and Brooke also, I think she feels the same way, is you are a bridge builder. You started this this whole interview off with the idea that let's not throw the baby out the bathwater. And I think that phrase is so powerful because there's good in everything, like let's just not condemn the past as if it's something to just be forgotten about, or just, to vilify it, like you had mentioned, people being angry. I believe that, you are spot on with that. And just to listen to you talk about this entire industry in general, and we say industry as, again, that word usually connotates some sort of commerce, but really just this whole part of human existence, from our ancient ancestors who were our indigenous ancestors. There was a medicine man or a medicine woman, there was always someone who knew the plants out there to help us, to heal from our, breaks and bruises. And there's every mother out there is kind of inherently somewhat of a doctor. And to hear you discuss this topic in general, and you're building bridges, which is so beautiful. And I think what a message you have to share, and you're a very beautiful soul. Oh my goodness. I mean, I think Brooke and I over here are buzzing because of just, you're really incredible. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your butt, but just
right. My ego is exploding here.
I mean, honestly, I knew you were amazing anyway, but just to hear you talk and to see the bridges that you're building, it's so powerful. It's beyond powerful. I mean, it's very touching, and I hope people will listen to this, and I hope that you will continue to put your voice out there, because you have a very powerful message. The energy you have helps people feel comfortable within it. It helps break down ignorance, or helps break down any barriers that people have of preconceived, programming that we already have. And to listen to you, because you break it down with facts, and you break it down with spirit and love. And I just want to commend you for it, because it's so vital. Geez, just beyond vital.
And Sara, we really want to support you in all your efforts too. So please know that that's what we want to do and be for you, is support. And
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we have the same mission, because you both have been incredible bridges, and you're bridges into the world of connecting people, connecting hearts, and connecting concepts. And it's been a beautiful form that you've created. And I thank you for accepting me, and I honor what you're doing, totally.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
This is quite a love fest.
I know.
Sorry.
Hugs.
Yes, you're too far away. We need some hugs going. Well, if
come visit Georgia.
Yeah, well,
for those who are going to be wondering about Sara, she's going to eventually have more information out there so that people can get a hold of you. And I'm just saying that because, goodness gracious, you need to do that. But if you have such an incredible message, and I just hope that people out there will listen to it and hear it. And we're going to have you back on again, because this could go on for, we could get you for a couple hours on this, because
absolutely.
I think we barely just scratched the tip of the iceberg, and I think there's so much more.
We want more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wanted to get into, we're already up on an hour here, and I was like wanting to really dive into some of your shamanism and some of your energy work.
Yeah, that's my favorite topic. I'd love to talk.
Oh, geez.
Stones and feathers and all of the lovely stuff like that.
And I wanted to go into conscious parenting and attachment, and so we could have gone on so much longer.
I just wanted to talk about OBGYN,
Oh, I know. I wanted to go into midwifery.
What is a vagina?
Vagina, one of my favorite topics.
I like that.
We need more men like you.
Vagina. Okay,
thank you.
Jeez. You're the perfect co-host for that statement.
Right.
Sara, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Again, it's Sara O'Heron, and we're gonna be hearing more from you. I can promise you that. So thank you so much for reaching out to me and making this. You were the one that made this happen, I don't know. I'm sure there's our cosmic guides are the ones that help make this happen. But really appreciate you, and I can't wait to do it again.
Absolutely.
Love you guys. Love to you all out there.
Thank you
well.
again.
We love you too.
Bye-bye.
See you, Sara.
Bye.